go on. Now it's recording. Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Danielle Ronan with Keller Williams Realty. I'm continuing my series of bringing industry and community leaders together to bring service to others in areas that may be most desperately needed today. And I have the pleasure of having my friend Ethel-Anne Roome on the line. Hello, Ethel-Anne. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good. She is a grief recovery specialist, and the reason why I asked her to join me today is we are more and more, we're learning and knowing people who may be affected by COVID, who maybe have had friends, family, loved ones affected, and not just by COVID, but just generally people who might be passing in our worlds right now. And we don't have the ability to comfort, grieve, mourn the losses that we typically would. And I asked Ethel-Anne to be my guest today to offer some tips and helpful ways that we might be able to manage and cope through this process so that we can bring ourselves some comfort and some closure to ourselves and to others. So thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
Indeed, indeed. And obviously I want to extend condolences to all those who've lost a friend or a loved one, whether it be COVID or any other reason for the death during this time. Not having our standard in-person funerals or services or rituals is yet another loss to us at this time, because we count on those services to help us make it real, unfortunately.
Right.
So the concept I'd like to put forth today is, if you are the griever and you cannot have your in-person funeral, I'd like you to consider the fact that social distancing does not necessarily have to mean emotional distancing. We do experience comfort and connection in other ways, but our standard handshakes, hand-holding, and hugs are pretty important to us in general. So I'd like us to shift our thinking to coming up with creating a second best service.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you can do to give yourself more connection with those from whom you need support. If you are the griever and if you are the one in charge of creating this service, it's important for you to look within yourself to see, how do I really connect with people? What's my best method? And I've come up with 3 ways of thinking of it. I'm sure there are others, but some people are phone people.
Mm-hmm.
They like to talk on the phone. That is good for them. They feel connected. It's number 1 for them. Someone else, like Ethel-Anne, I like the written word. I like letters, even emails. I like things to be written down and the back and forth communication that letters provide. And then some people are really, really okay with virtual funeral or social media platforms that are available to us today. So think about what's important to you, how can you get value, and how can you acknowledge and recall your relationship with the person who has died. So I came up with an example for Ethel-Anne. I'm going to say that it's my mother who has died recently, and I cannot have a funeral. So my idea is to write a letter to my friends and family who would normally be at the funeral, the people I know I can count on. Write a letter to them and reminisce about my mother. And in particular, I remember she made the best lasagna around. And I would include the recipe in this letter, and I would reminisce in the letter, telling my friends and family how I remember how she cooked this from memory, no measuring, no nothing. She knew how and when to do exactly what was necessary to make this the perfect dish. And as a kid, I was really proud of her. I thought, wow, that's really something to be able to do that. And then I would remember the nights she would serve that and remember that it was always a particularly joyful meal because we all loved it. And then I remembered, I also remember another part to this joyful dinner, and that is when it was my turn, when I was nabbed to be the one to do the dishes that night. I would always be a little bit perturbed because my mother left the kitchen in complete disarray, a total mess. So that in grief recovery, we call that making an accurate memory picture. There were lots of good parts, but there was that cleanup part that I wasn't happy about. So really, a person can take that idea that I just put forth, and you could turn it into a phone. If you're a phone person, you could turn that into a phone situation also, whether it's a group phone or one-on-one. You could do the same thing. And again, that's just an idea to get the creative juices flowing for you and what's important to you. You're the griever. You're the one that needs the support. Now, if you are a resident of Monroe or in the Monroe, Connecticut area, you're fortunate to have the funeral home Spadaccino and Leo P. Gallagher Funeral Home available to you because they have the expertise and the technology to help you create a virtual funeral. They have been doing this. They know what they're doing. You don't have to do it. You have to talk to them. They listen to you and help you create this. And not all funeral homes have this capability. Right. So if this is important to you, find, again, in Monroe, Spadaccino Funeral Home and other places, you can just call and check to see if they have that capability. So after you have created what I'm calling the second best service, you can't have the first one you want. So come up with the second best in whatever method works for you. And after you've created the second best service, be pleased with yourself. Accept it, give yourself a pat on the back, and know you've done something that's hard in the first place.
Right.
And now, with this other level of quarantine and social distancing, it makes it more difficult. But you still can get that emotional support. Yeah. You have to reach out for it.
Right. So you're talking about writing letters to reminisce and hopefully response to those letters, right? Equally reminiscing, because that'll help. Or the phone conversation at this point.
Yeah. And with the letter, I think I failed to mention, I also would say, would you, Danielle, would you be willing to make this recipe where we all, on Friday the 3rd, we all make this recipe? And then write back to me and tell me if you had memories of my mother making it for you, or what was your reaction to creating this for your family on the 3rd. Write back to me. That's key, writing back to me to let me know how it went, because that furthers our connection.
Correct.
That's what we're looking for. And again, the same, you can adapt that to a phone situation. The other thing I made note of for this call is that the funeral, whether it's in person or virtual or however we end up holding this, the grieving does not end at the end of the funeral, no matter what.
Right.
So other tips I have for the griever would be, number one, make sure you have somebody that you can trust who will listen to you. not criticize you, not judge you, not saying, oh, this too shall pass. Someone who can really listen to all of your feelings. Be brave, griever, be brave, and get them all up and out to somebody listening. And we're back to that adage of the reason we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Somebody that you can trust who will be that listener for you. That's absolutely key in my humble opinion. Then also, it puts it back on you, griever, but reach out. People really want to help, honest. I hear
You
it
just don't
all.
know how.
Yeah, we don't know how, what to say, what to do. We feel awkward and the griever feels like they're being a burden. And stop. Reach out. Reach out. Seek and ye shall receive. You really, really will get emotional support during this time of social distancing. And be specific. Say, Danielle, I just can't do a thing. And I've got these tomato plants sitting on my porch and they need to be planted. Could you do that for me? Be specific. Or I'm overwhelmed with all of the cards and letters I've gotten. Could you help me with my thank you notes? And then, as we mentioned earlier, on the reverse, if you are the friend or other family member, you reach out and be specific. Do what you can that you really mean. If you're not a good listener, don't offer to listen.
Right.
But I'm putting all of this on you, Danielle. But if Danielle is a super duper gardener, and on Saturday she's going to clean all of the flower beds in front of her house, call and say, you know what? I'm doing that Saturday. I'm cleaning the beds Saturday morning at my house. May I come over Saturday afternoon and clear the beds in front of your house?
I actually make a killer lasagna. So, yeah.
Okay.
So I can offer to cook. Everybody's got their gift, right, of what they can offer. Because it's oftentimes when you want to comfort the person who is grieving, you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do beyond the call me if you need me, I'm here for you. But you make a really good point. What is your gift to the world, and what can you give that person specifically that they could need? I could cook. I can listen. There are things that I can do, and being proactive, I guess, if you know the griever, it's on us too to comfort that person as well with whatever it is that you can provide.
Exactly.
Gardener, offer to weed the garden, and here's my cat. She makes a surprise visit every now and again. If you're a cook, so yeah, I love that, because I do think it's very difficult when you're the one grieving to ask for the help.
Right.
You want to, and as you said, you often feel like you might be burdening somebody, and you're not. They want to help, they just don't know how, and so there's an awkward connection there. Break that ice and be the giver.
Right.
I love that. I love that.
Right. Yeah. So it's all a difficult time, but you still can get that connection if you reach out and if your friends and family are willing to respond in kind.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so other ways that for self-comfort, if you're somebody who is grieving and you cannot have the physical contact of those to support you, do you have any?
Those handshakes and hugs are important, and we definitely are missing those when we don't have the service in person. So I thought of a couple of things, and again, it's personal. For Ethel-Anne, putting my hands on my heart and applying pressure is comforting to me. And maybe it will be for you too. You can try that. There is a company, and it's on the resources that I've given to Danielle, that makes weighted pillows. I believe they're called comfort pillows, and they also make weighted blankets.
Mm-hmm.
But the pillow that I've used is about the size of a throw pillow, and it's weighted, and you hold it close to you. That that again provides comfort. And even though we probably all want chocolate and wine,
Who doesn't?
which is fine, right? We really should be thinking about eating as well as we can to keep ourselves as healthy as we can, because this is a hard time.
Right.
Yeah. Again, look into your own heart and see what you need, and do your best to acknowledge that so people can help.
Any other resources? I know that you are a certified grief recovery specialist, and you do belong to an organization. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that, and what you do one-on-one, and what you would be willing to do one-on-one once this isolation is lifted.
Right. Yeah, I did give Danielle some resources, and one of them is the Grief Recovery Institute. That is the company I work for, and they have a website full of information in general. You can also look at the blog. The title is, I believe it is actually, How to Plan a Funeral or a Conclusionary Ritual, which is the other way we...
There's a tongue twister. Conclusionary.
Yeah. Help you with that. Also, if you are in need right now, there are definitely certified grief recovery specialists who are authorized to offer the grief recovery program online. Okay. And when you go to the website, you can type in and ask for how to find online specialists. I work only one-on-one and in person. So obviously I'm here once the quarantine is lifted, and I'm in Southbury. So,
what is it specifically that you do?
The grief recovery method is in fact a very specific program designed to help the person walk through the grief, walk through the loss. Not sweep it under the carpet, but face it. And the specialist helps the person walk through it with very specific steps. And I always say, I am here with you and for you as we go through this process. There's specific homework assignments that teach a person these steps. And that's all we focus on. We only focus on the loss. So if your boss has been really mean to you and threatening to fire you, I'll say, gosh, I'm sorry. That's difficult, but now we need to talk about your loss.
Right.
Because it's really easy to lose your focus.
Oh, yeah. Loss. You're looking for distractions sometimes, right?
You're looking for distractions, yeah.
How long does that process typically take?
It's a 7-week program when it's a one-on-one situation. Yeah.
And I, before meeting you, I never even knew that there was even a service like this available. So that's amazing. I mean, today, but anytime that anyone suffering through the loss or mourning of a loved one, that there is actually a service out there that can help someone get through and deal with all the emotions and sort of get some level of closure so they can move forward. That's amazing.
Yeah. And my tagline is, I help the griever make peace with the past. So they can then be present in the present.
Wow.
And then have the ability to make plans to move forward, because it's so hard to move forward when you're left holding all of these mixed emotions. They get really, really heavy.
Sure.
And you think you're sweeping them under the carpet, but guess what? They're still there.
Right.
So that's what we do. That's
pretty awesome. Well, I really thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. And it is my hope that the messages that you have to share and the resources that you have to share will be helpful to so many people who are experiencing loss right now, regardless of the circumstances, and cannot be with the ones they love or receive the support from the ones they love. And it's a beautiful thing that you do, and I do appreciate it. Do you have anything else that you want to share?
Yes, I do remember, Danielle, somebody posed the question to us before that they lost a cousin and then a good friend, and they're miles away from these people anyway, and that she is feeling nothing, and she's very upset about that. And so what I say, if you're in that situation, first of all, we can't make ourselves feel anything. We just can't. So what has happened is we're all under, whether we want to admit it or not, we're under this fear. We're under this worry. We're under this loss of safety. So it is taking precedence over other things. Mm-hmm. So I suggested to her that she take my suggestions and reverse it. So she be the one to initiate the letter, or she be the one to initiate the call. And maybe in the reminiscing, it will allow her feelings to serve also. So that's another aspect that we really didn't address.
Yeah, it's like just so surreal that it just doesn't feel like it's actually happening, and you're just waiting to wake up from a bad dream, because you cannot do what you would normally do routinely or ritualistically to kind of cope and manage through all this. That was an excellent point.
Yeah, and that's what the funeral or the service does for us. It helps us make it real. When we're there, when we're in that church, or we're in that synagogue, or we're in that gathering. Mm-hmm. Wow, this is it. She really did die.
Right.
Yeah. So it's difficult. So be proud of yourself if you make your second best service.
Absolutely. However you need to do it, even if it's a little bit, you're taking that first step towards closure, and don't criticize yourself for what little you think you did. The fact that you've made the effort is huge, especially at a time like this.
Right. Ask and ye shall receive.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight and your wisdom and your amazing talents with us. And I hope to see you in person very, very soon.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks so much, Danielle. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.